guys, how's it going? Today we're making a fresh wreath for our front door out of mostly things that we can find outside. I hope. We just got a fresh layer of snow, but the sun is out. It's supposed to heat up to 36 today. It's an absolutely glorious morning. I'm just loving it. Basic wreath making supplies. You're gonna need some kind of a form. You can home make your own out of branches if you want. This is a wire wreath form, 14-inch diameter. You can use whatever size you have based on the size of door you have or the size of wreath that you want to make. So yeah, 14-inch wreath form. You're going to need paddle wire. This is 24 gauge. You can use 22 gauge, whatever you feel comfortable with. I tend to like mine to be on this kind of roundish paddle, a little bit easier to work with. And then we've got our Felcos here, Felco 2s. We are going to be gathering some fir boughs first. We're going to be taking those off of the bottom of the fresh tree that we used in the Hartley. We had to cut off a section because it wouldn't fit in the building. And that is sitting right over here underneath a big bunch of snow. Okay, so we're going to have to knock some of this off, but you can see, oh, it's a lot heavier when it's got snow on it. I had to cut like 2 feet off the bottom of this tree. There's the trunk right there, so that it would fit under the chandelier. But we've got a lot of really nice boughs here. Look at this. So I'm going to gather, we don't need a tremendous amount. I'm just going to gather a nice pile and then we'll head to the next location. I think we're going to grab some North Pole Arborvitae next. So this is our hedge of North Pole Arborvitae right here. They span a pretty long distance here. I just knocked all the snow off the other day because we got like 4 inches. I think last night we only got a couple of inches. And since it's supposed to warm up, I'm not super worried about it. So like all of this right here, this will melt off today and then the branches will eventually make it back up to the rest of the hedge. But I just want to grab a few little branches of the North Poles. And so to do that, I'm just going to knock some of the snow off so I don't get it all over myself, but I'm going to reach toward the back and gather some from the back side so that we don't make any holes. See this right here? Look how beautiful that is. So the fir will give us a little bit more structure. The North Pole is a little bit more graceful in its structure, I guess, and it smells really good. So I think maybe like 10 branches that look like this. Oh, it's exactly what I was trying not to do. Ugh. Almost like have to help these out. These are just such weak plants when they've got the upward facing branches. Oh, that's better. Well, oh, I just dropped one back behind. Shoot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Bah. Gathering stuff is fun. Okay, got 10 branches. I think we're gonna go grab some rose hips next. Got a snowball right to the face just a second ago. Isn't it gorgeous, you guys? So I have a choice here. I could either cut hawthorn berries, which I'm a little bit reluctant to do that because this tree, I feel like this is the year it really took off and found its stride. And the birds do end up loving this and it's so gorgeous. Look at these hawthorn berries. So, so pretty. So what I'm going to cut instead are the rose hips here because these are plentiful every year. These are off the Morden blush roses. I don't deadhead them all throughout the season. We just leave them alone. And if you do that, they send energy into making these glorious, huge red rose hips. So I'm just going to go in and do this and cut the thorns off, whatever thorns I can see. I'll make it way more pleasant to work with them later. And I think I've got quite a number here. Let's see, we got to take a look here, right here. This won't hurt the rose plant at all. In fact, in just a couple of months, we'll be coming in and cutting these way down. Aren't these beautiful? So I just grabbed a small handful and we'll just disperse these around the wreath. I don't know exactly where we're going to go next. I might grab a few little branches of this Leyland cypress right here. I'm not sure what else is out from underneath the snow enough to grab. I do have a few of the bunny-tailed grasses. We just put these in the kitchen window box a couple of days ago and I had a little bit of leftovers, so these technically came from the garden, but 2 years ago, and that might be a pretty touch. But let's grab a couple of these branches and then we're just going to take a ride around the property and see if anything else jumps out at us. These need to be pruned anyway. we drove around a little bit and nothing really caught my eye. And I decided, because I have the grass here, that's really the only dried element I want to add to this wreath. You can always add sedum or yarrow or anything else that's got beautiful seed heads. We've got some fall spirea with beautiful seed heads, but I really wanted the rose hips to shine, the evergreens to shine. I did grab a few dehydrated oranges. I just made these for our window box by our kitchen door area, and I had this little pile left over from that project, and I have one little bundle of cinnamon sticks, and I've got a few more cinnamon sticks. I brought them in here somewhere. So I might add these in, so technically not everything came from my garden, but most of it did. The other supply I forgot to mention that you're gonna need is obviously some way to hang your wreath. So we've got a over the door wreath hanger right here, which we will add in the end. So I'm gonna set that aside. So I just wanna demonstrate how to get your wreath started in the beginning. And once you get it started, it's pretty easy all the way into the point where you need to end it. So first thing you're gonna do is unravel a little bit of your paddle wire, and we're going to attach it to the wreath form. And we just wanna attach it really well. So I just go around a whole bunch of times and kind of fold it back on itself. And the thing about the paddle wire is we leave it attached to this wreath form the entire process of making the wreath until the very, very end. So it ends up being just one big giant piece of wire that's wrapped around until we cut it. So we've got it here attached. We're gonna go around just a couple of times, again, just to make sure it is secure. The thing about like this 24 gauge wire, if I pull hard enough, I can break it. So you don't want to get too rough with it. So now I'm going to grab a little bit of the fir bough here. Now we're going to make little bundles, and we're just going to be attaching little bundles all the way around the wreath form. Got a little bit of Leyland cypress. So look at these three elements. Aren't they so pretty? So the fir bough adds that real nice stiff structure, kind of a good backing piece. And then our Leyland cypress has a little bit of a blue tone to it. I think it's so pretty. And then a little bit of that North Pole arborvitae just gives you some fluff. And then we've got a stem of rose hips here, like this. Now the size you make your very first bundle is the size you kind of want to maintain throughout the entire wreath making process, and that will indicate the size of the wreath that you end up with. If you make bundles that are way big and fluffy, you're going to end up without a hole in the center, and you're going to be trimming stuff out so you can see through your wreath, so it actually looks like a wreath. So you just want to be careful to make your bundles like manageable size, I guess. So what we're going to do is take this bundle and lay it on top of the wreath. Oh, I forgot grass. Hang on. You can always hot glue elements like this in, but we're going to add that in. Maybe one more. We kind of like, no, maybe like that. Okay, so we lay our bundle on the wreath form right above where we have the paddle wire attached. Then we're going to go around 2 or 3 times, pulling tightly each time, because these are fresh elements today, but they are going to start to dry from this point forward. As they dry, they desiccate, they kind of shrivel up. If you don't have your wire tight enough, you may have pieces fall out. So as long as you can, do one of these without breaking the wire, you're good. Now you can trim off little tails and bits like that if you want. You don't have to do that. But let's make one more bundle. I'm going to grab some fir bough first, right there. Here's a little bit of Leyland cypress. Go a little heavier on the Leyland this time. You can kind of just mess with these until you kind of like the way they look. And we've got some arb here. Hopefully I have enough rose hips to make it all the way around. You can go like every other bundle with your decorative element if you are a little bit short, but I think there's a few more out there I can cut if need be. Okay, there's a grass. So we've got our second bundle here. So this next bundle we're going to lay sort of like toward the outside of the wreath, like this, and slightly overlapping that last one. And you can kind of manipulate things a little bit. We're taking that paddle wire and we're going to wrap it around 2 or 3 times, pulling tightly. Like that, and let's do one more bundle because that one will face a little bit more toward the interior of the wreath. We've got our fir, Leyland cypress. Let's see, let's do it like this. I'm gonna let the arb be the back one, the back detail on this bundle. Okay, so there's our third bundle right there. So this one, we're going to overlap that second bundle, but face it toward the interior of the wreath. And that way, from this point on, we're gonna go outside of the wreath, inside of the wreath, outside, inside, until we are at the point where we're gonna end. So we take the paddle wire, wrap it around 2 or 3 times. And really, like, I want to stress to those of you who are just beginning with wreaths, just go for it with the wreath. You can hot glue pieces in at the end. We do it all the time. Even people who make wreaths all the time, we hot glue pieces in. I mean, it's all fixable in the end. So if you feel like you've already taken off with your wreath and you're halfway done and you're not happy with the way it looks, you can take it apart and redo it. I mean, that's the beauty of this whole process. Or you can just hot glue a bunch of stuff in at the end, and that's totally fine as well. So that's basically how you get your wreath going. We're going to continue on with the same process. When we get to the end, I'll stop and show you how I end it. Now that we're nearing the end of the wreath, I wanted to show you how I kind of tuck in the last few bundles. I'm just going to use this single piece of fur just to show you, like, see this little gap right here? This is where we're at. What we do is slightly lift up that first bundle and slide our next bundles underneath, and we just carefully use the wire the same way. It looks like in my case, I'm going to need probably 2, maybe 3 more bundles. So let me make this one really quick. I'm going to use the fir, the Leyland cypress, there's a little bit of arborvitae, and then our rose. So we've got our bundle here, we slightly lift up, we tuck it underneath. The next one gets a little bit, it gets a little tricky, a little trickier. You just go a little bit slower to get your wire around in the very end, but it's just a matter of tucking it in under that first bundle right there. There is some space right there. So let me get the last couple of bundles in, and then I'll show you after I cut my wire what it looks like on the back side and how we attach it. Pretty much done at this point. I did stop using the grasses right toward the end. I decided that I would glue those in wherever I need them because it gets to be such a tricky process toward the end, and these are so fragile I didn't want to break them. But what you do, so our wire is still attached. We're going to cut our wire 12, 18 inches long or so, like so, and we're going to flip the whole thing upside down carefully so that we don't break anything. Look at that right there. So now what we're going to do is just find an open piece on the back side of the wreath form. So that wire part right here. And we're just going to tie this wire around. Not even really tie it. We're just going to wrap it round and around and around. And you can go back onto another part of the wreath form further down the line here and feed it through just until you run out like that. Okay, let's flip it back over. Hopefully the grass was okay with me doing that. Oh yeah, perfect. Also, when you get to your end, you can individually glue pieces in to make it more full. You can individually wire pieces with more paddle wire if you want, or you do have to have a spot for your wreath hanger. So it usually is a naturally good spot to put that, and then you can kind of fluff or put a bow in around that if you don't want to mess with trying to make it perfect. Anyway, I think though, I don't know, I kind of want it to match the wreath on our back kitchen door so that there's a little bit of cohesion. Let me just show you here. Like, what if we popped? I just have a handful of these left. What do you think of that? Does that make it look brighter? Yeah, what do you guys think? I think the oranges might be nice because we're dealing with a similar situation to our portico doors, the big glass doors that lead into our great room. They are highly reflective and it's in the shade, and so is our front door. It's got a huge glass panel, which is what the wreath sits on. When you have a solid door, it's much easier to see your wreaths, and when we've got dark colored evergreens and then that dark glass, the dark reflective glass, I think having a little bit of the orange color in there might be kind of nice. So let me grab my glue gun. We'll work on that. We'll probably pop a few little grass seed heads in here so it looks fairly even throughout. But other than that, I think we're done and we can go hang it. I really love the oranges in it. I love the bunny tails in it. And I think adding cinnamon sticks would just be a little bit too much. So we're just gonna leave it at this. Let's go hang it on the front door. Let's see how this looks. Oh, it looks pretty. I love it. I love it. I'm glad that we went with the oranges. I think it would have looked a little too blah without the oranges, and I'm gonna have to clean the glass because there was still some snow on some of the greens that I was using, and so they've got a little bit of moisture going on. I'll try to get some pictures of it when it's not, you know, partially in the sun. It's a little bit easier to see the detail, but I mean, you could add a ribbon, you could add whatever you want to things like this. And I think it's just so fun to go out into your garden and gather what you can to make things like this. So anyway, hope this, it was kind of not a tutorial, but kind of a tutorial. I hope it was helpful for those of you who've maybe never made a wreath before. Get you started at least. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.